Hello, Film Geek Maniacs. Chad Miller here with Movie Talk. Okay, so for this episode of Movie Talk, we're going to be discussing A Star is Born. So my fiance Derek and I just went and saw this tonight, opening night, and I wanted to talk about this while it was still fresh in my head, and while I've got all these things buzzing around inside me to talk about and all that fun stuff. And I'm gonna go ahead and warn you right now that this is going to be spoiler heavy. If you don't want to know anything about the movie, stop right now. Or if you do want to know things before you see it, because I'm kind of that way myself, continue to watch. But just so you know, there are spoilers ahead. As many of you probably know, this is the fourth remake of this film, and I think by far, in my opinion, that this is going to be the best of all of them. This movie is a powerhouse on so many levels, so let's go ahead and get started. So we kick off this movie with a concert performed by Jackson Maine, played by Bradley Cooper, and this opening number is... It just starts off, just right off the bat, just like heavy percussion, and the energy is high, and it feels like you're like actually at this concert, and the cinematography of this concert scene is just so breathtaking, and it wowed me. And not only the fact that it was a great song, but Bradley Cooper is a truly gifted musician and singer. So it's after the show, and Jackson is in his limo, and there's your first hint that he has addiction issues. And so he wants his driver to find him a local bar that he can go to kick off the rest of his night. They end up stopping at what is a drag bar, unbeknownst to Jackson at the time. He just kind of comes in just really wanting to get his drink on, and lo and behold, he finds out that it's a drag bar, but who cares as long as he can drink. Performing at that drag bar this night, actually performing, is Lady Gaga's character of Ally. And so she gets up on stage and does an actual song, and simply just blows the mind of Jackson Maine. So he basically needs to meet her, and that he does. And it's a great scene, and this is the scene that starts off some fantastic chemistry between Gaga and Cooper. Their chemistry is so amazing. It's hard to describe it unless you see it, because it's like the moment that they meet, they instantly connect, and it's like they've known each other for years, even though they don't know each other. It's like it's played so tremendously well by both of them. It's great. So Jackson is instantly smitten. Like, he sees this girl's raw talent, her gifts as a songwriter, and being that he is tremendously gifted in those areas himself, he wants a part of it. And Ally sees this as a way to explore her talents, because she's very self-conscious about herself and has already been rejected by people in the music industry because of her looks. And so that's really the dynamic that we're working with here, and they're played so well. So Jackson and Ally hang out for a very long time, and they get to the heart of, who they are as artists and as people even. And the flirtation kind of comes to a head when Jackson invites Ally to his next show, and she's got to work, and she's got issues at home with her dad and his friends, and so she just can't make it. But Jackson sends his driver to come get her anyway, and she decides to just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to take a leap, both romantically with this guy, and to see where my career could possibly go. and she joins Jackson's show backstage. And she gave Jackson a little bit of a demo of a song that she was working on when they were all hanging out, and he quickly turned this into a melody and invited her on stage to sing it with him. And the song is Shallow. It's the only song I know by name because it's the only song that's been released as a single. And the video, when I first saw the video before watching the movie, it gave me some feels because it tells you that story of her coming on stage for the first time in front of a massive audience. I think anybody who's a performer of any nature can know what that nervousness, but then that rush can feel like. So the video did a really good job of portraying that, but the actual performance in the movie, it blows you away. It blows you away, and I definitely was in my feels for that performance, and it was great, and you felt everything that Ellie was going through in that moment, and kudos Gaga. So in the midst of Jackson and Allie forming this relationship, she also gets to really witness firsthand his demons, his addiction issues. With everything that has happened to her in the time since meeting him, you were kind of taken somewhat into her head as far as like, okay, is this something that I can deal with in order to get where I want in life and have someone that has any meaning in my life? You really get to feel that kind of internal struggle within her. So naturally, after this huge blow-up performance, it goes viral. People are starting to recognize Allie and see what a great talent she is, and she eventually gets confronted by a music manager, and he's like, I want you on board, you got so much great talent, and she's excited about this, and she jumps on it. It's like there's no hesitation. And at times I thought that was a little bit too naive, but considering how much she's been rejected, why wouldn't she take that first, headlong plunge? This is her big break. So in the trials and tribulations of this whole thing of her getting signed onto this label, there's a little bit of discord between her and Jackson. She begins to feel that he's jealous of her attention. He's definitely feeling that she's selling her soul, and that becomes a huge plot point in the movie. And it is, in fact, that Ellie is selling her soul to the devil, essentially, just to become famous. And yes, while she is writing her own stuff, it's not who she is as an artist. And it gets flipped into this heavy pop-influenced... And I wouldn't necessarily... It does come off as garbage, and that's intentional. But she's still in it wholeheartedly. It really plays with her relationship with Jackson, and he goes a bit off the deep end, and just as she's on her rise, he does something fairly embarrassing, and gets sent off to rehab. This journey that he's now on, Allie starts to question within herself and to Jackson as far as whether their relationship can continue, because she's only primarily known him when he's been drunk. He's still willing to fight for it. So then, so he gets out of rehab and they continue on their lives together. He's got this great piece of music that he's been working on. Share it with her. So then Allie's manager comes to him without Ellie's knowing and basically says, you basically need to distance yourself from her, because any more mention of you in her life and her career is done. Allie's got this big, concert gig. She wants Jackson to be there to perform with her, because she basically told the manager, I want Jackson to be with me on this tour. It's important for him. It's important for us. And her manager was like, no. And that's when he went to Jackson. So she basically said, well, F you. I'm out. So she's going to do one last performance. She wants Jackson to be there. And it's really super duper important to her. She doesn't tell Jackson that, she basically gave up her career for him. She just said that she wants him there at her last performance, and he says, yeah, I will definitely be there. So Jackson gets ready and, but not ready for Allie's gig. At the beginning of the scene, I thought, oh, okay, alright, cool, he's going to the show, and then something clicked in me that I then knew where this was going. And I was kind of sitting there in my head going, no, let this not be true, let this not be true. And as the scene played out, it certainly was going to be the case that he was going to kill himself. So at this time, Allie's doing her show, she's got the big number with him coming up, he's not there yet, and they're saying, just go out, do Shallow without him. And she does it, and it's amazing, and Jackson's gone. Just gonna cut it a little bit into how the scene played out with me personally. It's been almost a year since I made my last suicide attempt in my life, my most drastic, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this more in depth as to why this is so important. My fiance, who was with me watching the movie tonight, was the one who found me, and this scene triggered the both of us in unbelievable ways. Sorry. And I mean, obviously for me, knowing where Jackson was coming from, and for Derek, realizing where Allie's going to be coming from, or going to be going through, and it was a tough scene. And the movie gets finished with Allie paying tribute to Jackson through song, and it's the song that Jackson was actually working on while in rehab. And she performs this, and this piece hits on every nail about a person who is feeling suicidal and a person who survives. And then, as if the knife couldn't get twisted any further, right at the end of the song, like right at the big climactic end, they cut to a memory of Jackson finishing the song to Allie before he took his life. So, anyhow, as I get into the specifics of why that scene is so impactful in so many different ways, I'm going to give you a little bit of what happened with me. After that, after my suicide attempt, I was officially diagnosed as being bipolar, and a few other mental, hindrances that I have, and I'm a huge advocate for suicide prevention and mental health awareness and education. So having a scene like that portrayed in a movie, I mean, it's not the first time we've seen somebody take their life in a movie, obviously. But one thing that really made a difference about this to me was that with all of Jackson's issues with addiction, and probably a lot of underlying mental health issues that don't really get touched on, I really love that they didn't vilify him as a character. He was very sympathetic. Yes, people got angry at his behaviors, his addictive behaviors, but he was never made out to be a villain at all. And that's something I truly respected. Overall, let's start taking a look at the performances and the actors and the director. Bradley Cooper directed this movie, and he was phenomenal with it. It was funny in the places it needed to be funny. It was definitely very dramatic when it needed to be. And as portraying Jackson, it was a performance unlike any other that I can think of. I mean, I wouldn't say it would rank in one of my top 5 performances ever by an actor, but probably in my top 10. Lady Gaga. I never saw her in American Horror Story, so I was not familiar with her acting chops, if she had any, and I've heard mixed reviews about her performance in that. So So I was really just kind of going on what I saw from the trailers as far as like how I felt that this was going to go, and she was so good. My only couple problems that I had with the film was that when Ellie was branching out into her career, I thought there was too much time focused on showing her becoming this new pop icon, and I thought that could have been trimmed up quite a bit. And I felt that it mirrored Lady Gaga a little bit too close, so it kind of took me out of the film a little bit, because I suddenly felt like I was watching Lady Gaga instead of Lady Gaga playing Ellie. One of my favorite vloggers on YouTube, Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer, said that she really enjoyed watching Gaga think. And I can totally agree with that. We also get some really awesome performances out of Sam Elliott, who plays Jackson's brother. And he's not in the movie a whole lot, but man, do his scenes sizzle. Not that we're surprised, right? Sam Elliott is an astounding actor. And also, in a surprising turn, we get Andrew Dice Clay playing Ellie's father. He hasn't been really a relevant person in so long that it really took me a lot of time to realize who he was. And then when I did, I was like, what? What? I want to thank Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, and this whole crew for this movie. And not only was the storytelling phenomenal, the acting was phenomenal, the music was amazing, and the directing top notch. So kudos to all of you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Love and light to you all.